The purpose of the workshop is really to introduce you guys, and I think some of you have already know the work that we're doing to provide land access to the residents of LA. And what we really need to highlight is that we're providing, or our purpose, our goal, our mission is to provide land access at two levels. One is at a technical level, really providing the community with the informational resources and the data that you need to have to understand the resources out there, but also developing other tools and resources that are more about addressing the procedural issues around how does an organization or an individual gain actual legal access and tenure to a particular piece of land. So my work, the Transforming Inner City Lost Lots, is really focusing on trying to inventory publicly owned lands to put it out there to the public as a resource, as a resource that so they can use to understand vacant lots as opportunity sites. So we have very short objectives because the TIL program is pretty much at its closing. And I'm going to primarily focus less so on the process, but more so now on the results that are trickling in, because we have been getting some very exciting but partial results from the surveys and the overall process that we went through. So just to overview, well, I mean, this is why we're here. I'm not going to go over this, but we know what the needs are for the city of LA, and we know where those the geography where those needs need to be addressed. So what is TIL? TIL is essentially a plan to address or to address the development of vacant lots or promote the development of vacant lots into opportunity sites. And we're doing this through by providing strategic information about vacant properties, publicly owned vacant properties out there in the city of LA. But also, like we said, all the kinds of resources and toolkits that I'll highlight as we go along the presentation. And again, I want to encourage you to interrupt me and ask any questions that you may want to ask. I do better when I answer questions than just be a talking head.
I was looking at the one yellow circle, publicly owned vacant land.
Right.
I know one issue people run into if they're trying to identify like a neglected lot. Is it publicly or privately owned?
Right.
And are you like making that easier to find out?
Yeah, we're making that easier, and I'll go over that step in a moment, actually, which is where I'm jumping into, is how is TIL being performed, or what is the process? So the TIL process is really 3 different phases that have been running simultaneously. It's the data gathering and mapping phase, which is what you are referring to, where we have been collaborating with a number of city agencies to identify those properties. We have been getting the community involved, as well as other stakeholders like community organizations and city agencies. And finally, the reporting and analysis, which is the understanding of everything that we've sort of like accumulated and done throughout the TIL work. So for the data gathering component of it, so what's available out there is really administrative data that some people just do not understand. So for instance, the county assessor's parcel data that the public might have available through the GIS or by just searching CMAs. If you do a search for a vacant property, it will just show up whether it's publicly owned or privately owned. If it's privately owned, the information about who owns that property is proprietary, so you would have to submit an application and request the information for you to better understand that channel. For the data for the government-owned, it's essentially the same. We don't know, just looking at that information, what agency holds the property. And there are 5 different agencies that are proprietary in the city of Los Angeles. So that's GSD, Public Works, EWP, LA Port, and LAX. So all those 5 agencies own the biggest bulk of publicly owned properties in the city of LA. Oh, and Parks and Recreations. So we have been collaborating with the different agencies to get a list of their publicly owned surplus properties. And we're particularly interested, or what we particularly went out for, were for the what we call this underutilized sliver remnant pieces, which are essentially the tiny pieces of vacant lots that exist out there. So the easements, those partial alleys, or those small undevelopable odd-shaped vacant lots. Because as we've heard throughout the day, we know that any size of park can provide a huge benefit to a particular community. So we really want to inventory those sites because one, that's where the land trust really, that's where it really shines in creating those small pocket parks that the community can revolve around. But also because that's where, well, mostly because that's what the city is willing to give us, right? It's not going to give us these huge assets, because we know that this collectively this network of remnant properties can make a huge impact in promoting the health and the active living of its community. So we went through this process of reaching out to the city agencies, and we have been working with USC, the Spatial Science Institute, to map all these vacant properties, and also with LA Open Acres to share this information. So we're providing this information in two different platforms. Our platform, the Teal platform, is still in the development process, but the list that we shared with LA Open Acres, and Sondrina is going to talk about that, what we work with in making that public in that process. What's particularly special about Teal, though, is that we're not focusing on inventorying or paying close attention to everything that is publicly owned or everything that we collected. We focus our attention on 5 regions in the East San Fernando Valley, Boyle Heights, El Sereno, Central South LA, and Wilmington Harbor Gateway. So those were our target neighborhoods because we know that that's where the needs are the most. But also these were our target neighborhoods where we did our community outreach for our community forums. So which was our stakeholder and community participation phase. So we, in line with the mission of the Land Trust, we reached out to the community to invite them to tell us about what they would like to see in this vacant, on this vacant lot, what they would like to do with the properties that we inventoried, and also to introduce the process itself and the resources that the TIL at some point, hopefully soon, will develop and make public. So we hosted one in each of the regions. We also created a vacant lot assessment survey. This is the tool that we use to ground-truth all the administrative information that we got from the different agencies. So the agencies sometimes tell us that a particular lot might be vacant. When you actually go out there, it's actually already built up, but the information that they're working with is really, or that they give to us, it's really offhand. So we developed a 4-page survey that our community surveyors used to we're using to get a better understanding of the physical and the surrounding characteristics of the vacant lots. And that's what I'm going to focus primarily in the rest of the presentation is some of the results that we've been getting through this survey. Because all this information at the end through the platform that USC is going to be developing is going to match the GIS information that we have with the results so that the public can have a better understanding of the landscape of opportunities that are out there. Like I think in the previous slide, I said that there were about 2,600 entries. And what I mean by entries is that they're both the kinds of properties that we went out for, the underutilized vacant properties, but they also include different kinds of assets. So the survey is ground-truthing that information to make sure that we narrow down the kinds of opportunity sites that or the kinds of sites that can become opportunity sites in the eyes of the community. So it's really trying to develop a criteria through which we're going to be narrowing down and identifying opportunity sites that we can highlight in this urban greening plan. So this is essentially how our community surveys have been perceiving I mean, it's obviously very unscientific. It's a word cloud, but this is how this is in their words when we asked them to subjectively describe. And the surveyors went through an hour and a half training of the survey, so it both includes their personal description or understanding of the vacant lots, but also a more categorical process to actually investigate the parcel. But this is in the words how they saw when they went out there and surveyed the vacant lots. So most of them described them as being paved, fenced, dirty. There was grassy, gravel. But what was really interesting though is that so far we collected about 100 or so surveys that we entered into our system, which is SurveyMonkey for now. But so it's 100. This is the results of 100. We're collecting approximately 400 surveys for the vacant lots. But what we noticed so far, or what we're noticing so far, is that there's huge variation between vacant lots that are perceived as being a blight on the community, and something that are perceived slightly more as a resource. So sometimes they're actually being described as lush green area spaces because they have huge trees and have beautiful slopes. So it's really, I'll get to you in a second. It's really interesting that when we think of vacant lots, the first image that comes to us is this blighted space, but sometimes they're not. So to get a better for us to imagine them as opportunity sites, this understanding is really going to influence our future vision of them, I think.
Okay, what I see from this is you're looking at everything above ground.
Right.
And what I'm concerned is what's below, because it's supposed to be a circulation element. The citizen's supposed to do this. They haven't done it. They haven't concentrated on what's below. And when you look at these things, are you addressing, Zenus has a lot of this, but not all. Methane zones, methane buffer zones, liquefaction, landslide. I mean, they're talking lit ordinances, long back development, but in a lot of areas, you put more water in the ground, you're going to have landslide eventually. So I just have a real problem with looking at public right-of-way lots without realizing the whole hazard and hazardous thing and the soils and geology.
Right.
I mean, to really make better use of it, including toxics and growth.
And that's actually one of the issues that was brought up in our community forums, especially in Wilmington, where you have refineries, is the actual environmental conditions of the soil that exists out there. There's a lot of energy in Wilmington to bring greening projects or create building projects, greening projects in the area, but there are a lot of issues, and they face different roadways or roadblocks than somebody in the San Fernando area does. In the San Fernando area, for instance, a lot of the issue there is dust, pollution, but also the underutilized use of open spaces. So as an organization that is promoting the development of open space, we really have to rethink about how we see the activation of a vacant lot, not just as a development of park, but also as something different. But yes, I agree. This is not a very detailed analysis of the vacant lots, but it was not intended to be that, because again, this is mostly to engage the community. The survey was a process to engage the community into the analysis and the understanding of the vacant lots that exist in their areas. And if I have a lot of money, it would have been great to go out there and train them to do the kinds of soil analysis that is necessary to really detail the conditions of the vacant lot that they want to see as something happen. But there's a certain scope within this grant that I have to stick with, and this is what I'm operating under. We did touch on some of those environmental issues. This is kind of like the different questions that we ask. Some of them seem to be, you think they will be redundant, but when you really dive into it, it's really more about kind of what we run through things, what we are dealing with information. So this is the major bulk of the survey that we used. So this is the surveyors went out there and assessed the existing conditions, what they observed within those vacant lots. And so far, the sampling is it's a little bit skewed because this only includes Wilmington and Boyle Heights. But there aren't any, a lot of major aha moments. But right now, I don't think it's necessarily intended to be that. But more towards the end, when we start creating this database, you'll have information. You have this information attached to the vacant lots that we inventory identified. So you have a better understanding whether vacant lot X has all these different characteristics. And hopefully this will give you a better understanding of what you can do with that particular space. This is another question that we asked, really trying to understand the surrounding conditions or the surrounding uses to that particular vacant lot. As we probably already know, most vacant lots are near industrial or major transit activities. Also, some of them are in residential areas. So that that's interesting in terms of how we identify opportunities or how we see opportunities within those vacant lots. And we also try to include different components that are pertinent for us to envision vacant lots as being an opportunity for something else, right? So the safety component, whether if we build a park in a lot that is inaccessible because it doesn't have traffic lights or crosswalks, that has real implications about whether of the use of a particular space. So the whole purpose, again, is to, for us, for this process, is to prioritize the 2,600 or so properties to a number of few that we can highlight in the urban greening plan and promote them as hopefully future projects for the Land Trust or for other organizations to undertake in a way that is more community-led rather than technically driven. And finally, the reporting and analysis component, which is where we're at right now, is really trying to make sense of the greening process. New York, Baltimore, a lot of these cities in the East Coast have developed and have had access to this tool that Till and open acres have had for a number of years. So they're way ahead of the curve. Well, I mean, LA is way behind the curve in terms of providing a tool and a resource that the community can use to understand and understand the opportunities that vacant lots present. So this is kind of what both Till and open acres is trying to address. So again, what is Till? So it's going to be primarily going to be this urban greening plan that is trying to guide the activation of vacant lots and also providing you with technical resources through the database and through the different mapping platform that we developed for you to have access to this information so that hopefully somebody can take ownership of that information and do something with that. And we'll be providing you with all this, hopefully, current self-knowledge and stuff. So I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and I want to give a shout out to Fernando, who has really been the heart of Till. He was our intern and has now become the stewardship coordinator for the Land Trust. So you can, if you have any questions about the actual process of the collection of the survey, he's the one who really undertook that. So he has really good insights into how do you organize, massively organize the collection of surveys and the results from them. And I'm going to turn it over to Sondrina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sondrina. I'm with Community Health Councils, and I'm a little short on time, so please slow me down or ask questions if you need to, but I'm just going to get straight to the nitty-gritty on this. So this is pretty much adding to what Israel was talking about as far as pretty much getting data into the hands of the community and trying to figure out strategically how we can come up with better ways to create greening plans in our communities, develop more parks, but to really give the community a voice and a say at the table when it comes to accessing open space and looking at opportunities that exist in our communities as far as land is concerned. So in partnership with 596 Acres and C-Lab, Community Health Councils, we came up with this idea to create a website, and it's called LA Open Acres. And the goal of the website is to map city-owned and privately owned vacant lots and other parcels that exist in the city of LA and the surrounding communities of LA, and to pretty much change the system of decision making about how and who accesses unused land in the community. So through this approach, we wanted to create a tool that was more engaging for communities to access data through mapping opportunities and coming together to come around a piece of land to say, hey, we want to do something with this space. So through this website, we're in the process of developing additional tools in addition to the mapping, but also provide land access resources and to provide an avenue through which relationships can be built through potential landowners or existing landowners and community members or community organizations. So what do you guys see here on the screen? Dots. What do you think these dots represent? Vacant lots. This is very much so. So this is what LA Open Acres is in its bare essence. Plotting and mapping all of the vacant lots and additional parcels that exist in the city of LA and the surrounding areas. And it's a way for us to come up with a way to provide a central hub where anyone can go on the site and identify a vacant lot and say, hey, I want to do something with this lot. Let's do something with it. Let's reimagine it. Let's transform it. And let's make it a space that's more community serving instead of being a blight or a detriment to the neighborhoods that we live in. And in essence, as I said, LA Open Acres is about opening up data to people and opening up spaces that may not have otherwise been so without access to a platform such as this and data that's been collected through TIL and through other sources that exist publicly through the city. So currently right now on the site, as I mentioned, it pretty much data points vacant lots and also easements. I have flood channels highlighted, but that's not so as of yet, but primarily vacant lots and easements that are owned by the city. And the difference between LA Open Acres and TIL is that LA Open Acres incorporates private data. So this is a screenshot of the site. I'm going to go into it right now so we can see how it works. You guys have any questions just yet? No? Okay. So this is my contact information. You can jot it down really quickly if you would like to get in contact with me after this. But I'm going to take you guys to the website right now. So the site is up and live right now, so you can access this tonight, tomorrow, whenever you choose to. And so what you're going to find here is the main homepage of the site. This is the map that I previously showed you on another slide. And just really quickly, if you scroll down, there's the blog that's associated with the site as well. And so I'm going to show you guys how this works. So here, this is a drop down of a filter. You'll see that the dark circles represent publicly owned vacant parcels in LA, and then the light purple is actually private. So if you can see the comparison of the amount of private lots versus publicly owned lots is very abundant in our communities. So here there's a drop down that says living lots, And this will indicate whether there's an existing green space, if a site is currently being organized around, if the person says, or a community member says, I want to do something with this space in my community, there's a way for you to put your contact information and bring other people on board to do work around the site. Say myself, if there's a lot on the corner of where I live and I know that this could be a beautiful community garden someday, I can go locate it on this site, put my name in, say I'm interested in turning this space into a community garden. Here's my contact information. Hey, maybe a friend or a neighbor down the street is interested in doing the same thing, and they put their contact information. So it's a way for people to come together and organize around a common space to work together to try and actualize that vision for that particular parcel. And there's an opportunity also for people who are existing property owners to say, hey, I'm a friendly owner. I'm willing to work with the community to transform an existing site that they're no longer using. So I know recently there was a bill passed at the state level, AB 551, that will provide incentives for owners of privately owned land to have tax incentive for leasing out their property for urban agricultural use. So we're in the process of working at the city and county level to get that passed. So when you search for a site or search for a location, you can enter in the exact address or the intersection where that place is possibly located. You also have the option to click on the box and search for lots within half a mile around that lot. Also, you can search specifically by zoning code here. And you also have the opportunity to search by size as far as acreage. And then there's also boundaries. You can search by council district, neighborhood council, and also community plan area. And once you search for the site, you click on the parcel, and it pulls up an address and also information about that site. And so you can click learn more, and it's going to take you to an individual parcel profile. Okay, so here we see where the lot is located. On the right side of the screen, it gives you additional information about how big the lot is, what council district it's located in, the neighborhood council, and it tells you that it's privately owned, and it tells you the name of the person who owns the lot. And so say, Mr. Meeks, you want to organize around this lot, you want to do something with this space. You click Organize with Us, and you can provide your contact information and a note. And you can determine whether you want to post that publicly or leave it private, and we'll see it on the back end on LA Open Acres website. And you can also identify yourself as an individual or a community-based organization. And then you would simply click submit, and your name and your, if you want to post publicly, your name and your contact information will show up. People can come add notes about this space saying like, well, there's a property that's actually on this lot, so it's not actually vacant. You can let us know. You can also submit photos of that space to show what it, even a more updated image of that site, because right now you can see in the Google image that it seems to be gated, have a fencing around it. You can also add files. So this right now, LA Open Acres is newly launched. We're just scratching the surface as far as collecting data about every single parcel that we have mapped on this site. I would say optimistically that there are opportunities for more additional information about the parcels to be uploaded on the site. So I know people have brought up concerns about the soil and heavy metal contamination in these sites. It would be really good for people to know what the characteristics are as far as the specific scientific environmental data on each parcel. So, for example, if somebody did some testing, this is just free for all, just giving an example, but somebody did some testing on this particular lot and they came up, had the results, there's an opportunity for a person to come identify this space, this lot, make a note and say, we found da 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 da, and submit it to the site. We'll check it, verify it, and that'll be additional information that'll be contained on this particular lot's profile page. So thank you all. I encourage you to go on the site, laopenacres.org, play around with it, connect with people that you know if you guys want to organize around a particular space. There's also 596acres.org, who is a key partner of ours. You can check out their website. They've been up and running for a few years now to see what it looks like when people actually organize around a site and actually develop something.